All right, it is Bronze and Modern Gods. It's a new month, a new day. Richard, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm just sitting here back watching the market go insane right along next to you. And that is our main topic this week, the comic book market insanity. Where will it end? Is there an end in sight? What will happen? You know, you've got two guys here of a certain age that went through this a couple of times, and we may not have all the answers, but we can definitely speculate and make some predictions and share those with you guys. That's what we're going to do.
Absolutely. We're very capable of BSing for 45 minutes.
We've got that part down. We also have viewer mail, the 25-year rule, our underrated books of the week. Let's get going, Richard, talking about comic book insanity. It's our hot book of the week. It is Ultimate Fallout #4, the first print, yet again.
Yeah, I don't know where there is a ceiling to this book. Now, we all know this book. Anybody who's been around in 2020 knows about the meteoric rise of Ultimate Fallout 4, which is the first appearance of Miles Morales, let's call him the new Spider-Man. I mean,
How much Morales?
Miles and Morales.
Okay.
You know, Peter's always going to be around. Peter is the Spider-Man, but he's the Spider-Man for a certain group of people. Miles has grasped a newer audience, and he is, for them, their Spider-Man. And we're seeing unbelievable increases in the value of his first appearance. I don't know. You know, we're going to talk about some potential reasons why, but, you know, I bought this book last year before the entire craziness. I bought a 9.8 for $400, which was the going price for a 9.8 at that point. This week, I was looking at sold auctions for eBay. There was a sale for 3,500 Canadian dollars, which works out to be 2,764 US dollars for a 9.8. Just a 9.8. There was nothing magical about it. Didn't have unicorn, tails flicking out of it. It was just a stock, bog simple 9.8. And that just blew my mind. At the same time, someone bought a 9.8 that was a signature series. It was signed by I can't remember exactly.
Bagley or Bendis?
It was Mark Bagley signed it and someone else. I cannot remember. So it wasn't a Stan Lee signing. Sometimes Stan's signings, garner a higher price. But it was $3,000 for that book, for those two signatures on it. It's difficult to see where the cap for this book is, because every time we say we know where the cap is, people surprise us and move that barrier higher.
It was going down a bit for a couple of months there. In fact, I mean, it was dipping down to under 1,800 at one point. So this is crazy.
Yeah, it was like 1,500 for a while, and I thought, okay, this is where it's going to settle, because all books settle for some extended period of time. You look at Hulk 181. It was 2,000. I had the 5.0, and it was $2,000 constant for most of 2020, and that's just the way that books do. But this book, it seems to reach a high plateau for a period of time, and then just go for another high. And like I said, I'm done guessing where the ceiling for this book is. This is definitely a hot book, not only of last year, but it's turning out to be a hot book of this year as well.
You know, when it was selling for 400, 500, 600 last year, we're heading out on our 1-year anniversary here on Bronze and Modern Gods. And we've talked about this book over and over again. Remember how skeptical I was at those prices?
Yeah.
So, I'm eating crow here. I have to ask, you got a wall full of them back there behind you. What are you going to do?
I'm straight hold. I am not selling any of them at this point. I thought about that for a while, because I'm a Miles crazy man, because I've got the first print, second print, both versions, the newsstand, the Djavik variant. Got them all. They're all back there on the wall, and I bought them for me primarily, but of course I have extras. And as a person who's a speculator, I'm looking at the fact that the prices have reached this high. Now, we're going to talk a bit about, why we think the prices are as exaggerated as they are. But we've got a movie coming.
Yeah.
Edge of the Spider-Verse. Edge of the Spider-Verse coming in 2022. We've got potential entering of Miles either through Multiverse of Madness or of a number of potential vehicles. So my point is, we could see Miles Morales in person in the MCU before the end of 2022. And if that happens, the prices that we are seeing right now with just his appearance in the comic books and in the video game, it's going to hit another high. So I don't see this book going down at all to any significant level. All it takes is, something opening up to Earth 616, and then out pops, Miles. If they really want to push the envelope, they open up Gwen Stacy's universe as well, and then we have that power couple.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I'm gonna push a little bit more. Even if you got to trade for your Fantastic Four 2 or 3 or something, you're not gonna give up any of the Miles?
For 2 or 3, no, because I'm totally happy in settling on a 4.0, 3.0, 2 or 3. And those are, multi-$1,000 books. Yeah. I think they're achievable without having to denude the wall back there. Okay. But if somebody puts up a 1, now that's a different story. That's a horse of a different color. If I have an opportunity to get a Fantastic Four #1, because that to me is the holy grail of holy grails for comic book collectors, in my opinion.
All right. Well, we're going to talk some more about this crazy market in a few minutes. But first, it's time for viewer mail.
You've got mail.
And our good friend Jason Brownell, he leaves the best comments. So we have another one from him this week. And it is about newsstand editions. He left a comment on an older video where we talked about the direct market versus the newsstands. And he says he read an article confirming from DC that the last newsstand issue of Action Comics is issue 985. Almost 80 years of that title being sold on a newsstand came to an end. While he doesn't buy into newsstands being a true variant, there is a true historical presence with that book. I agree. That's interesting. That's a good one. I love collecting last issues of books, just weird stuff like Fear 31. And that's kind of a last issue. I don't know if I ever see one. I think I just might pick it up just to pick it up.
Yeah, that's really interesting. By that time, that they had that shifting scale of, the ratio of direct to newsstand. So I can imagine by the time you got to that, there's 1% of the books are newsstand. It's got to be hard to come up with that particular issue. So if you do hunt it, give us some feedback about how difficult it was to find. I've got one from Eastval. These cards are going to crash and crash hard. We're talking about trading cards. I'm even starting to worry about my Bronze Age blue chips at this point. Tempted to cash in on my ASM 129 and put it towards some Silver Age goodness. Eastval, I would agree with you that trading cards are going to have a more volatile price cycle. I can definitely say that. We've reached this peak, and historically we'll see a crash to the cards. But for certain keys, you're talking about comic books now, like ASM 129. I'm still bullish on that book. I think.
Hold on to it. Don't do it.
Right. Hold on to it, because Marvel just got the rights back for the Punisher, and that means that we will potentially see him either in a supporting role in a movie. It would be awesome if he would do a future Spider-Man, or we'll see him in a lead role. That 129 is going to be basically gold. So I would hold on to it. I wouldn't worry about the current markets affecting books like that. So if you've got the means to hold on to it, please do.
Hey, it's the perfect segue to our topic this week, which is the comic market insanity. And these keys like Amazing Spider-Man 129 are just one example of what's going on out there. We've seen what's happened the last 12 months with everything going on. People are home. People are keyed up. They've got stimulus money coming in. They've got no way to spend the money they normally earn outside. So they're kind of shifting it to nostalgia, reclaiming their childhood, even investing. And I look and I'm thinking, all right, we've talked about it several times. Let's talk about it officially here. there's a light at the end of the tunnel coming. You guys have heard me say this several times, and it's getting closer and closer. People are getting back to some semblance of normality. I see shows being scheduled on the East Coast. Okay. I see shows happening in some states. People are putting them on Instagram. And so, what's going to happen to the comic book market in the next 6 to 12 months? Richard and I have thoughts. They are our opinions. They are not gospel. They are not edicts from on high. In fact, some of Richard and my thoughts differ. And let's just start off with, Ultimate Fallout 4 is just one example. What is legit? What these inflated prices? What is long lasting? What's going to crash? One book that I look at and I get angry when I see it is Giant Size X-Men #1, right? You know why I get angry, not because I don't think it's legitimate. I had a 9.4 white pager that I sold for 2 years ago for $3,400.
I remember when you sold that book. I remember when you got it back and you were so excited about selling it. So yeah, it's well, as we always talk about, there is such thing as a seller's remorse. Don't get caught up in it. Everything has a cycle. You buy and you sell. You get good money for things, and sometimes you don't. It's not something to worry about. I was telling you earlier, John, I had a Miles, Ultimate Fallout 4 Djevic variant, a 9.8 that I submitted, and I had it in my hand and sold it for $2,300, and I was thrilled with that amount of money for the book at the time. Later I had seller's remorse, and I managed to find a signed by Bendis, a 9.6. I got cheap because the case was cracked. Here's a hint. Don't be afraid of crack cases.
Get a reholder.
Yeah, reholder it.
$15.
$15. I reholdered it and got it back, and it was pristine. Don't be afraid of making sales if you think that there's an opportunity to make money, because you'll have more opportunities in the future.
The good news is I think I paid $11.75 for it.
There you go.
Yeah, and it was graded like an 8.5, and I pressed it, and it was all pressable defects. Got it up to a 9.4 white pager, so I made it, double my money on it. And so I was happy with that back then. But now I look at the prices for a 9.4, especially a white pager, and I'm just like, ooh, maybe I can add that second floor to the house.
But you got to be careful. I mean, you can invest in things like a Venom Air variant that you had, that Venom 27. Yeah. And, you make initial investment. You see the value of that thing going up.
Hi, Nelson.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Our show with Nelson about that book. And the value of that book goes up and up. And then sometimes values are built in a house of cards, in my opinion. The values of certain key books are solid. They're bedrock. I would trust the values. They'll fluctuate, but not by that much, at least downward. But that particular book really had no support under it. And after a while, it collapsed under its own weight, and the value of that book went from,
I think the first 9.8 sold for like $3,000, and then it dropped to like $600, $500. So it's we say this a lot too. He who is first wins. A lot of times it's a race to that first 9.8, and you put it up there at a crazy price, and someone bites. And is that sustainable? No, I don't think so. Giant Size X-Men #1, is that sustainable? Absolutely. Yeah. I think if I'm going to make a prediction, not only will that hold, it's going to increase once all that MCU action happens. I think we're going to see people, they forget everyone's sleeping on X-Men #94. Mm-hmm. I think X-Men '94 is undervalued. I think it's not a #1. So all the old school collectors back in the day didn't hoard it like they did Giant Size X-Men #1. I think that cover with that dark green background, you exactly. Richard's reaction is what people see when they try to get excited.
I hate that cover. Of all the keys, X-Men keys, that is my least favorite by far. But I agree with you. It is going to be one of those long-term keys. And me personally, I see the X-Men as being a hot spec, a hot long-term spec, because they're coming to the MCU. There are certain givens in the future, and the fact that Marvel is going to make money off of Wolverine is a solid given. Mm-hmm. So we just have to wait, and we have to prepare. And by preparing, we look at those keys, and like X-Men '94 and Giant Size X-Men, and things like X-Men 129 and 109, there's a whole bunch of keys there in the Burns era of X-Men I think are really, really, really going to be important once the MCU introduces mutants. So those books are, in my opinion, blue chip.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Wolverine. That's another one that I see shooting up big time the last 12 months. Weird things like Wolverine #1 of the ongoing series from 1988 selling for, I don't know, $1,000 at 9.8. Wolverine #8, which is just a Hulk crossover issue with the two of them on the cover, selling for crazy amounts. What do you think about that? Because you and I knew each other when those books came out. Do you remember how many I ordered at the shop and how many are out there?
But that's an interesting thing. The quantity of books produced, does it have an effect on the value? And all I have to do is point at Amazing Spider-Man 300.
Yeah.
There are, at this point, most likely 24,000 graded copies of that book because it is not a rare book. It is not a rare book in any form. Its rarity comes in, or its value is determined by the fact that, one, getting that book in a 9.8, especially a newsstand 9.8, is almost impossible.
Yeah,
so there were
printing issues with that book.
Yes. Out of those 23,000 copies that are graded, only 5% are actually graded 9.8. That's how difficult it is to get that high grade. And then the second thing is, it's Venom. It's Venom's first appearance. It is, if you think about an iconic Spider-Man book, it is on the top 10 list for first appearances. And that cover is just one of Todd McFarlane's master strokes, because it has been.
How many times has it been homaged?
Oh, so many times that people forget its origin. I mean, I at least every book seems to have some kind of homage to ASM 300, and those two factors outweigh the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of them out there in the wild. So, and you get things like like a Wolverine #8 with Hulk and the gray Hulk ants and Wolverine. It's an iconic cover. It's a cover that a lot of people want. And as long as that demand is there, and especially a demand in the high grades, it's going to continue to hold value and gain value. And that's just the way that the market works. I see books like that being stable and continue to increase in value. That's just the fact that those books have a value outside, I hate to say it, outside of the MCU directly.
Yeah.
Because the MCU is driving of the value of some books that I really do not think are necessarily key books. It's just they have early appearances or first appearances of some event or some character that happens to be a part of the MCU. As that particular person or event fades in the memory of moviegoers, the value of that book is probably going to fade too, if it's not a major character. So, if you're looking for keys, I would buy keys that are important up unto themselves without any buoying from potential movie tie-ins.
Do you think a lot of this is being driven by new collectors or just existing collectors that just have a little extra cash and time right now?
I think it's both. I think existing collectors, they have money, they know what they want. You and I, we have our lists of books that we're looking for.
Yellow Claw #1.
Yeah, Yellow Claw #1. I'm looking for Love and Rockets #1, X-Men 101. There are a couple of key books that we're looking for, and we focus on targeting those books. And as we have extra money, they'll go to those books. So I think the fact that we have stimulus money in play, that and the fact that my family didn't do a vacation this year because where are you going? There's extra money in the kitty. And so that tends to go towards your hobbies. One of my big hobbies, obviously, is comic books. But at the same time, there is a lot of new blood coming into the market, either from, people who are fans of the movies and Disney properties, but also from other types of collectors. We've got sports cards collectors. We've got tennis shoe collectors that are looking for a new place to put their money. They're seeing the returns that you get from some of these comic books, Ultimate Fallout #4, for example.
Right.
And they're dumping money in, hoping to make a quick profit off of those kinds of events. And so we'll see, when we'll continue to see that happen, as long as We have the stimulus money as a factor, the fact that we're all stuck in the house as a factor, and the winter also played a big factor of it too, because people tend to do less in the winter. So we'll continue to see buoying from these external forces. But even if those forces go away, if the comic book people are the only ones left, I still think it's a really healthy market. We brought a lot of people in that had left the hobby. I, for one, was pretty much dormant in the hobby before the last couple of years and some of the excitement that came about. We've got some mutual friends, XForce, who got pulled back into the hobby, and who will be here regardless of whether or not there's a new MCU movie around the corner that's going to highlight character X. So I think the fact that a lot of people have been reintroduced to the hobby is going to hold the value of these books, even if we see a retreat in those external forces.
Well, it's funny you said external forces, because that brings me to my next item on the list, XForce #1. Now, you want to talk about something that is unsustainable. Sorry, I'm going to put it here. I may eat more crow, but you know what? I'm hungry. Guys, I don't need to go down the road again. Listen to the podcast from a couple of weeks ago, but I think a lot of new blood is driving things like XForce #1 up.
But the whole thing with XForce #1, I think, is it's driven by sheer boredom. People are looking for something. They're looking for some activity. The same way the whole fervor behind the GameStop stock.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that is an event for its own sake. And while people make money off the games, I'm not knocking it. It's an opportunity to make money. It's the same thing with the XForce cards. It's an opportunity to make money. It's not really a collecting opportunity. I don't think there's a lot of people out there who all of a sudden say, "Hey, I need the Deadpool rookie card, I'm willing to pay a fortune for it."
It's kind of like the whole Dark Hawk #1 thing. It was a joke. It was cute. It was funny. Can we stop it now? Because I'm afraid, real people are getting hurt, Richard. While I think those are kind of overinflated and we'll see a correction, those types of books, there's other ones that are hot, that are interesting. I think Department of Truth #1. What do you think of that? We've talked about that book a bit. I think there is something to it, but I would warn everybody, if you're building it around the fact that there's movie interest in it and Variety covered it, beware the Walking Dead effect, which is...
Yeah, but you say that, and Walking Dead #1 is a $3,000 book again.
There's a new season, but what happens? This is the final season. What happens after?
Right.
We saw a dip when the series ended, not the comic book series, not the TV series. And now we're going to see another dip. I'm going to put that out there as well. I think Walking Dead, will be dormant for a bunch of years, but then there'll be a 25-year nostalgia kick in, 25-year rule. And I think Department of Truth, if you got them, hold them, but don't hold them too long.
Well, see, I differ with this. I think there's two books that show a lot of promise. Department of Truth is one, and Something is Killing the Children is #2.
They're both great reads. #1.
Oh my God, they're incredible reads, and I think they deserve to be collected on those merits. But the Department of Truth, some of their covers are just amazing. #1 is good. There are a number of excellent covers in #1, but my money is on the Romero variant for #2. That is by far the creepiest modern cover I have ever seen. For those listening to this, it is a picture of a demon with a knife and forks, over a crying naked baby. And it evokes a lot of emotions in people. And I think it harkens back to that same kind of visceral emotion that EC was trying to bring with its covers. So I see a lot of money and a lot of potential in that. Already we're seeing, if you look on eBay, you're seeing values of over $100 for that book. You'll see some listed for $400 if you wanted to pay that.
I had a 9.8. I had to get rid of it. I couldn't have it in the house.
Yeah. It's crazy. I've got a number I'm about to say get graded, and it's a creepy copy. But so are things like Suspense Stories #22, where the guy's got the woman's head and an axe in his hand.
I was fine with it until the blood started dripping from the walls, and then I was like, you know what? I'm starting to hear things like "get out," and I'm like, all right, this has got to go.
But to me, it's awesome. When we talk about horror is definitely a segment of the market that drives sales. People love horror, and if you talk about things that generate that level of horror as a collectible in the modern era, there aren't a whole lot of covers that will evoke that kind of emotion, that kind of 50s. It's hard to say. It's over the top. All the easy covers from that period were over the top for them, and now this cover to me is over the top for 2020.
My only thing is that this book may be too tied to the moment. The topicality of it with the conspiracy theories, no spoilers, I don't want to go down that road, but they're very specific conspiracy theories that are very much tied to 2019, 2020, 2021. 10 years, is it going to resonate like that anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, the series in general, if you want to talk about the series as opposed to the cover, I agree. It is very much tied to the atmosphere that we live in, the environment that we live in today. And if things were to change dramatically, then there would be probably a dip in the value. But then again, that same tie to this particular set of situations makes it a perfect candidate for the 25-year rule. If you think about 2020 and, and it's 2045 and you want, this series evokes all of the emotions and the thought processes of 2020. So to me, it's definitely something that would have value long term.
In 2045, we'll both be 50. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, 50, not coming years though, right?
50 plus 50.
So 50 dozen.
Yeah, let's make some broader predictions, not book specific predictions. Okay, another round of stimulus checks is coming. What then? What's going to happen?
Oh boy, I think we're going to continue to see these major keys. We're going to see XMen Giant Size X-Men #1, Hulk 181, X-Men #1, Fantastic Four #1. All these big Silver Age keys and bronze keys are going to continue to go through the roof because people are looking at them as investment quality books. So we'll continue to see those. I hope anyone who wants any of those books will get their #1s here soon before they really just go insane once people have some additional stimulus money. So we're going to see those go up, and we're going to see other books. We'll continue to see the spikes in variant covers where, there's been a lot, especially in the last couple of years where a particular store released a particular variant cover that's hot for the moment and it sells out within 30 seconds. And there's this FOMO so that when people list it on eBay right afterwards, it goes for 6-7 times what people paid for it. And then they'll get the books and then they'll realize the value in that book was in that initial sale, not in the long-term hold, and the value will then go down over time. That whole cycle we've seen over and over and over again.
Speaking of which, did you get your Miles Morales basketball cover yet?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. That's a good example. That book sold out. It sold out immediately. I managed to grab a copy for myself and our buddy Forrest. I managed the second time to luck out. I did not break rules. I did it the way you're supposed to. And got two sets of it. It is definitely a book that was hot and is hot right now. But in a year from now, it's it may not be that hot just because it's a variant. I mean, we talked about building an investment on bedrock versus things less firm.
I'm waiting for mine to be delivered. The minute I get it, it's going. I'm pressing it, I'm slabbing it, and I'm selling it. I'm not keeping that book.
No, it's hard to judge. Sometimes they take off and they hold value. Sometimes they don't.
What I'm noticing is modern keys. By that I mean Bronze Age or later. Your Hulk 181s, your Amazing Spider-Man 129s, 300, stuff like that. I see plenty of them for sale on Instagram, on Facebook groups, on Heritage, everywhere. I see them everywhere. Silver Age keys, not the big ones. You can get an Avengers 4. You can get an Avengers 1 if you want to pay. Stuff like the stuff I'm looking for. Tales of Suspense 58 and 59. Yellow Claw 1 through 4. Stuff that, is always in demand. They're just not showing up. And I think it's my personal taste, but I used to see these books all the time. That's why I never bought them. I'm like, oh, I can get that later. I can get that later. There's no later.
No, people are holding on to them. People are hoarding. I know because I'm guilty of it. Look at my Marvel Superheroes number 20 collection. People are hoarding because they understand that those kinds of books are books that will hold value above and beyond the market that we see now. So if you are looking for a sustainable, stable investment, I would target those kinds of books, because if you pay $1,000 for one of those books today, in 5 years, I can guarantee you'll still get your $1,000 out of it, plus some amount of profit. And that amount of profit depends on a variety of factors that are difficult to determine. But the slope for that book is going to go up because it has a sustainable value.
I always thought that Silver Age books would kind of go the way of Golden Age. The potential audience ages out a little bit, it calms down, but it's quite the opposite. It's really, I think younger people are heading towards Silver Age books, and you see someone like the Golden Age guru who's probably 25 years younger than both of us, and he's into Golden Age and people like that. So I feel good about that. But boy, give up the books, people. I want them.
Yeah, the Golden Age is another thing. I think people are sleeping on Golden Age titles. I keep seeing Golden Age books. Today I was looking at what was it, Black Cat Mystery. If you remember, some of the covers in that series are just really striking. There's the one where the guy's eating radium basically, and his face is all melting off.
Tasty.
Yeah.
That's always going to be a huge book. I mean, people see that cover and they lose their minds.
That is, but I was looking at some of the other books in that series where you would think they would be someplace rivaling that particular book, because that's one of those iconic SOTY level kinds of book. Seduction of the Innocent was what SOTY stands for. It was a book that caused the comic code to be brought into existence. But there are other books in that series which are, they're a couple $100.
Kirby ones from later in the run of Black Cat Mystery with Kirby covers and stories. I got them for $40 a piece.
Yeah, that to me is just unbelievable. I think people are sleeping on Golden Age books because there's so much attraction with books that are tied to existing superheroes and, more importantly, existing superhero movie properties. So that's where the excitement is right now.
They're more liquid. You can get rid of an Ultimate Fallout 4 immediately. If you put it up on if you went to your wall and you put every single one of those up on Instagram today, they'd all be gone tomorrow probably.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It takes a little more effort to sell a Kirby Black Cat Mystery. You got to find the oddball dude here and make sure he sees it. So I get that as well. So it's something we say all the time. Buy what you like, but be prepared. Don't get ripped off. Do your research. Right now, Ultimate Fallout 4 is at the height of the market. It might dip again after the movie comes out. It might be a longer play to save a couple $100.
Yeah, it's with that book. I don't know. It was claimed that we told people to pass on buying this book at $700. I don't remember saying that.
I don't remember saying it. It does sound like something I would have said. So I'll take the blame for that.
But you know what? To me, it may have been a reasonable statement to say, if we weren't looking at the market forces that we have today, the money coming in from the stimulus, the COVID isolation, there's a whole lot of things that make that $2,700 Ultimate Fallout sale possible that I don't know if we could have predicted when we were looking at the book at $700.
Did I think the federal government was going to send people checks for $1,600? Never in my life.
Yeah.
For staying home? I mean, what? Okay. What is this? Socialist Russia? Just a joke, people. All right. So we want to know your thoughts. Tell us in the comments. Send us a DM. You know how to do it. Follow us at Bronze and Modern Gods on Instagram and Facebook. And we'll see what happens. We've got an interesting summer coming up for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pivotal. If John and I, we just to extend it one last second. You and I talked about when we saw a potential pivoting point, and I think we both agree May is going to be an important month to determine, is the market going to correct, or are we going to, because of these other external forces, are we going to see it continue to go up? So, yeah, I feel May is an important month.
On the day we recorded this, which is Sunday, the government announced 5 million people were vaccinated today alone. That's huge. And so this was 100 million by first 100 days is going to happen. They're way ahead of schedule. So I think we're going to see stuff in May really come to some sort of head. So it'll be an interesting ride. We'll be here with it and we'll share it with you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we talked about 2045, 25 years from now. Let's go back 25 years ago to 1996. You know what it is. It's the 25-year rule.
Oh, that's awesome.
Today, we talk about Batman and Captain America, a one-shot Elseworlds square-bound title written and drawn by the mighty John Byrne. I loved this book when it came out. I thought it was right in my wheelhouse, and I think it really was in John Byrne's wheelhouse. You could just tell this guy was like, this is what I lived for, was to write and draw this book. It's the culmination of his 30-year career at that point. It takes place in World War II. The Joker and the Red Skull team up, sort of. I don't spoil it for you, but, you've got two insane criminals working together, or are they? And of course, you get to see Bucky and Robin together, so the sidekicks unite. It is not a very expensive book at 9.8. If you really want to get a slab, it's about $90. I'll tell you, don't buy a slab. This is a pretty easy pickup. You can get this in the shop, your local LCS. I'm sure it's hanging around for probably just cover price or a little more. And I don't know what you think, Richard, but I think this is the last truly great John Byrne book.
Yeah, and you put in here, you just know Byrne was in heaven doing this. So yeah, I think this is a labor of love. To me, I love these kinds of crossovers. I think they're exciting, and they introduce characters that never interact with each other, and you see that interaction. I love stories like this.
Yeah, have you ever read this?
No, I have not. I have not read it.
You really should. I don't want to spoil it, but there's one part that you would be on the floor with, and it's awesome. So you have to read it, and we'll have to talk about it later. But
okay.
Batman and Captain America, 1996 wasn't all Drek.
That's right.
All right, it's time for our underrated books of the week. Richard, go ahead. I love this.
So I was looking around for a pick this week, and I tried to find some interesting books. So I put in first action figure cover, because action figure covers are something that I really enjoy. The old Kenner design where you've got the blister of the figure, and then there's the writing that emulates the old Kenner writing, or any of the early miniature figure blisters. Just fun, because I come from that age. I found one, the very first example of those blister pack action figure covers was called Scud, the Disposable Assassin, from back in 1995, issue number 9. It's a really cool cover if you get a chance to see it. It's basically this robot, and he's got mismatched appendages and such. And it's a really cool story. I'll just give some of the outline of it. It's about a future where you can buy an assassin robot from a vending machine. And the assassin robot will go out and it will dispose of its particular target and then self-destruct. So there's no evidence of, no way of tracing it back, right? This Scud is one of these robots, and he is contracted to kill a woman named Jeff. Okay. He's in the process of doing so, doing his mission, when he happens to see in a reflection a big self-destruct message on his person, and he realizes that if he kills Jeff, then he will self-destruct. Having a self-preservation subroutine built into him, as all robots do who are trying to finish a mission. They have it so that they will finish the mission. He proceeds to blow the arms and legs off of Jeff and then put Jeff in life support to keep them alive so that he doesn't die. And the story just gets weird from there. To me, this is one of the reasons why I feel independent comics are so important to the hobby. They just inject such outlandish ideas into the medium that eventually will find traction in the mainstream comics. This is just a fun thing. This particular book only had 24 issues. There was a run for 20 from 1994 to 1998, and then there was a revival for 4 last issues because the original writer and artist Rob Schraub stopped in 1998 because he lost the creative direction for the book. So he found it, and he found some ideas to finish the story in 2008, and there was 4 issues that came out there. This gets no love from collectors, unfortunately, at least not from people who get books graded. There are 0 copies of this book on GPA, meaning that there's never been sold. At least not this particular issue has not been sold on any of the markets that GPA covers, which is fine. On the census, this is CGC census, so I don't know particularly for CBCS or PGX. There are 2 books. There's a 9.8 and there's a 9.4, and that is it. If you're interested in this, the 9.4 is actually up on sale for on eBay right now. So if you're interested in picking it up, it is available. But this is a book I would probably buy raw. I mean, you could buy a raw from $30 to $50. They're still out there. You can pick them up off of eBay for a price range. And when I was doing my research and I was looking at eBay sold prices, and I saw that someone had some original artwork for it and the test print in black and white, and it's for $400. I would have bought that in a heartbeat just to have it as a part of my collection. So yeah, so this is Scud the Disposable Assassin. Wild concept. I think it's something that is underappreciated at this time.
2 things. Number 1, if you're watching the video version of this podcast, hi Kitty. You just got a cameo from Kitty.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Which was cute. No, I love it. And number 2, this is a John pick. This is the kind of stuff I pick. I don't appreciate you being all up in my area.
I know.
But Scud, now number 9 may not be a big demand book, but this book is very popular still. I see it sell at shows, especially number 1. It's a wall book for sure. I never got into it, and I was always kind of like, wow, this book is really that in demand, and it really is. I think it's been optioned a couple of times. It hasn't worked out, but there is a fan base out there for good old Scud. So there you go. Mine is a little more mainstream. I'm in Richard's area this week.
Wow.
I know. It is the Incredible Hulk, number 449, a.k.a. the first appearance of the Thunderbolts. Now, you guys know I'm a big T-Bolts fan. I've got a complete run. I love that group. I love this book not so much. It kind of introduces them. You don't really know who they are. It's written by Peter David. I know people love Peter David and they worship Peter David. I am not one of those people. To me, Peter David is the kind of writer that comes up with a bad pun and then invents a story to build up to that bad pun instead of just, plotting a real story and doing it. I just went on a Peter David rant. Ooh, what was that about? But there are 464 9.8s on the CGC census for this book, so it is not tough in grade. The last sale, though, was $399, and the 90-day GPA on this is $346. So it's definitely trending upwards because we're getting close to 25 years since the Thunderbolts debuted, if you can believe it.
I can't.
Now, I know. I don't want to give any WandaVision spoilers, but I don't think it's a secret that Sword is a part of WandaVision, a big part of WandaVision. And with that organization playing a larger part in the MCU, I really think it's laying the groundwork for a Thunderbolt program to appear, not a TV program, the Thunderbolts rehabilitation program within the Marvel Universe. I don't want to give away spoilers. I can tell you on the side if you really want to know what Easter eggs I'm seeing that kind of point to this. Happy to share that. More importantly, Thunderbolts was a great read. It ran over 100 issues from Kurt Busiek's run to Fabian Echenza's run on. I liked the Warren Ellis run. When it became Dark Avengers, Greg Pak. I sing the praises of Greg Pak all the time on this podcast.
Yep.
You can read any issue of Thunderbolts and be entertained, except for the run in the mid-'80s when they canceled it, threw out the whole thing, rebooted it under Bill Jemas and Joe Quesada, and made it about super boxers or wrestlers or whatever it was supposed to be about. That lasted 6 or 7 issues. Just totally took a dump on the entire concept, and boy, did they pay for it. So avoid that. I don't even have those in my collection. I'm like, oh, cast them out. That ain't Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I'm surprised this book is as inexpensive as it is. You know, I pick up copies of this thing for $30-$40 all day long. It's such an important introduction. I'm surprised it's not worth more.
Think about the titles and the concepts that Marvel introduced in the 90s. How many lasted as long as Thunderbolts into the 2000s, 2010s? I can't think of any. Was there another book that started in the 90s? You could argue X-Force, I guess. But, that was an X book. I mean, totally new original concepts. It has its place within the Marvel Universe. That's my pick for this week, and I think that's going to wrap it up. Richard, what do you think?
So much to talk about. This show is going to either age really well or really badly.
I think you gotta have a point of view. We can get on here and we can waffle and we can say it made you this or it made you this. I think people are more entertained if you have a point of view. People, they understand if you are wrong with a prediction, but if you just kind of come out there and just half butt it, no one's entertained by that. So I'm not afraid to put my flagpole in the ground and say this is probably going to happen.
No, and we're also not afraid of being wrong. If we're wrong, then we'll own up to it. But like you say, you kind of, if you're speculating, you kind of have to put your marker in.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're just not going to be successful. So you need to think ahead, do your research, and make decisions based on that research. And whether you're successful or not, at least you've done your job in terms of making the best decision with the information you had at hand.
Tell us your thoughts. Leave them in the comments below. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods, and we will catch you next time.
Everybody stay safe.